Good afternoon, and thank you all for holding. Your lines will remain on a listen-only mode for the duration of today's conference. And I would like to remind all parties the call is now being recorded. If you have any objections, please disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Janet Gordon. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. Welcome to this Money Smart for Small Business Town Hall. I'm Janet Gordon, Associate Director of Community Affairs at the FDIC, and I'm based here in Washington, D.C. So my responsibilities with FDIC include two important functions. First, I'm responsible for continuing our commitment to provide free, authoritative, and adaptable financial education resources for banks and their community partners. And two, I have a team throughout our regional offices covering every state to do state and local networks and partnerships dedicated to both financial capability and economic inclusion and opportunity. So I know that there's someone near you. These Money Smart for Small Business Town Halls are geared to representatives from intermediary organizations and financial institutions. And we hope they help provide ideas and information to organizations like yours that are either using or considering using Money Smart for Small Business, or organizations that refer their clients to those teaching classes. So as of yesterday, there are about 500 Alliance members, of which about half use Money Smart for Small Business, or as we're going to call it the rest of this meeting, MSSB. I never like to start a conversation with an acronym. But this is our acronym for Money Smart for Small Business. We're also very grateful to our colleagues at the Small Business Administration, or SBA, who are on the phone today, for continuing to help us encourage engagement with MSSB. Increased levels of participation in our town halls and in the growth of our Money Smart Alliance are indications that our efforts to promote and develop the MSSB product are appreciated and needed by our stakeholders. And we want you to feel free to give us feedback and during this call and at the end of the call. We're very pleased to connect this group of practitioners today, and at the same time, we want to encourage more banks and partners to join the Money Smart Alliance, and in a few minutes, you'll learn how to do that. So we use our town halls to learn from Money Smart Alliance members that are now using MSSB, and we're very privileged today to feature 4 representatives from 2 such organizations. Urban Asset Builders, Inc., which is based in Atlanta, Georgia, and Tampa Bay, Florida, Black Business Investment Corporation. Our MSSB National Point of Contact, Paula Diaz, will help be moderating their discussion, and I just want to say that we very much appreciate them taking the time to share their wisdom and experience. I'm also happy that today Donald Smith, the Director of the Office of Entrepreneur Education from the U.S. Small Business Administration, also here in D.C., has joined our webinar to provide some opening remarks. We're happy to partner with the SBA in promoting and developing MSSB and to really work together around the country in engaging small businesses and their partners through local collaborations that involve both the SBA district offices, headquarters staff, and our community affairs staff across the country. It's an ongoing work in progress to encourage use of MSSB, and it's wonderful to have such a good partner. Donald, please introduce yourself, and please feel free to share any thoughts you have coming from the SBA with our national audience.
Oh, thanks so much for the warm introduction. I'm Donald Malcolm Smith. I'm the Director of the Office of Entrepreneurship Education at the Small Business Administration. The Office of Entrepreneurship Education administers the nationwide SCORE volunteer program, which provides free and low-cost business mentoring and training to nascent and in-business entrepreneurs. We also implement the Emerging Leaders Program, which operates in 57 locations across the U.S. and now in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. It's a program that's especially designed for mid-stage entrepreneurs to help them grow their businesses. We want to help them create jobs and grow revenue. And importantly, we operate the SBA Online Learning Center, where entrepreneurs at any time of the day or night can access the information they need to plan, start, launch, and manage their businesses. The SBA is excited to be a part of a partnership with the FDIC. It's critical that we strengthen and empower businesses to be successful. This partnership is all a part of the SBA's commitment to be effective, efficient, and accountable, because small businesses are the engines of America's economy. So, to create jobs and to create revenue, businesses need to be ready. There are two key components of that readiness. One part is having a viable business idea, and we can help you with that through our resource partners. And the second part is being financially capable. Businesses need access to capital. And when you need access to capital, you have to be in a position of being credit ready and understanding how to manage both your business's finances and your own. There isn't a surefire way to get a business off the ground if you aren't fully in step with a bank, understanding that you have good character and good credit. So I'm excited to hear from the other panelists today and look forward to participating in the question and answer. Thanks so much for partnering with the SBA on MSSB. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donald. I am Paola Diaz, the Senior Community Affairs Specialist in Washington, D.C. at the FDIC, and I focus on economic inclusion opportunities related to small business. I support our community affairs specialists nationwide to assist organizations that are using or considering to use Money Smart for small business by referring them to examples of work by other organizations that can be useful, conducting presentations to the stakeholders about the value of MSSB, coordinating train-the-trainer opportunities, and conducting outreach in national conferences that help us reach intermediaries that work with aspiring and existing entrepreneurs. Again, welcome, and thanks for investing this time to learn about how two organizations are using MSSB. I will start by asking you to look at your right-hand side of the screen to identify the chat function and the Q&A function. Please use the chat feature to communicate with any other participants or all panelists by going to the chat icon or the Q&A icon on the top right-hand side of your screen. And once you click on the icon, a window will appear. You will type your question and hit send. As you might have noticed, this webinar platform runs as a browser window in your computer. If at some point you lose it, you should look for a green and blue circle icon in your taskbar. I cannot show you the taskbar in this mode, but it's usually at the bottom of your screen or wherever your start button is located. In the case of Microsoft users, the start button looks like a blue circle that has 4 colored flags inside. Now, as you can see, we're going to have 2 speakers, and I am going to talk to about some of the, I want to remind you about some MSSB resources that represent the top questions I get. While I do this, I hope that we can multitask and you can use any of the instant messaging functions that we discussed a minute ago to confirm that you are viewing a slide entitled MSSB Reminders, and that way we know that you've learned how to use the function and we can have an interactive session. If you are having any technical difficulties entering the web access, I want to remind you that you can contact Laura Lawrence at llawrence@fdic.gov or call 1-866-900 1011 for troubleshooting assistance, or simply refer to the slides that you were sent earlier today that are also available at the event website. First, please be aware that these and other Money Smart for Small Business Town Hall webinars since 2016 are recorded for future reference, and they can be found in our website. About 35% of today's audience are not Alliance members, and we hope that you will consider joining after this webinar. Even if Money Smart or Money Smart for Small Business are a small part of what you do, it is important to join because in our Alliance list gives you the exposure in our website, which has many visitors on a daily basis. Remember that you can use the MSSB Train the Trainer curriculum on your own. You do not have to wait for an FDIC Community Affairs specialist or an SBA representative to train your instructors. However, please be sure to coordinate with your local FDIC and SBA staff if you want us to help in organizing a Train the Trainer event. Our credit and banking module update is underway, thanks to the Alliance members who provided feedback. We have extended the period to receive more comments and suggestions to improve these two modules until August 30th. Please email me directly with your feedback. My contact information will be available in the last slide. I also want to remind you that you can download any MSSB modules, including MSSB Train the Trainer materials and the MSSB flyer in English and Spanish from the FDIC catalog at the website shown in the slide. All other information about MSSB in the FDIC Money Smart webpage under the Money Smart for Small Business section. Given our very large audience today, we might not be able to address all questions that we received during the registration process or during the webinar, but we want to address all of those questions. Please be sure to email us after this. Finally, please note that all participants' lines are muted, but you can participate actively by using the instant message function. Now, the most important part of the agenda, our guest organizations. Urban Asset Builders, Inc. from the state of Georgia, and Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation from the state of Florida. We will be sharing their experience using Money Smart for Small Business within collaborative network environments. The presidents of both nonprofits will introduce themselves and provide an overview of their organizations, and a Promising Practices panel will follow, where the program staff from both organizations will tell us how they partner with their local stakeholders to widen the reach of the MSSB program and how they implement MSSB in the classroom. Our first presenter is Venus Lockett. Venus, please join.
Thank you. Thank you, Paula, and thank you for all that are on and giving us the opportunity to share the work and efforts that we have. My name is Venus Lockett. I am the founder and Chief Empowerment Officer of Urban Asset Builders. I am an entrepreneur and have owned two businesses, one baking business and one sewing business in my teenage years. I have 5 years experience in the financial education arena. I'm a pathfinder and connector in the greater Atlanta area, and I have experience with building cross-sector collaboratives for financial education asset building programs. We have strong ties with the Federal Reserve Banks of Chicago and Atlanta, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the American Library Association, Financial Planners Association of Georgia, and a host of other partners. So I initiated and served as the state chairperson for the Money Smart Week campaign in Georgia, initiated and served as a state coordinator for the CFPB Libraries Project for Georgia, and as a result have created and managed the Money Smart Georgia project to make sure that we have our efforts going all year round. We're a member of the Small Business Action Team for the Westside Economic Inclusion Collaborative, which is Arthur Blank collaboration between the Arthur Blank Foundation and Equifax. And I serve as a team lead for the Financial Wellbeing Action Team. Also serve on the Advisory Council for List Fund, a nonprofit that helps small business owners with limited access to capital realize their dreams. So Urban Asset Builders, we're a grassroots and asset building organization and was established in late 2010. It was created to support the urban entrepreneur with education, resources, and support. We're a member of CFED's Assets and Opportunity Network as a local network leader here in the greater Atlanta area, and we have 5 focus areas: financial assets and income, businesses and jobs, housing and home ownership, education and health. And so this line of small business training fits directly with our mission. And at Urban Asset Builders, we promote and support a culture of collaboration. Can't stress that enough. So at Urban Asset Builders, financial education is the foundation of the work that we do. What we found is that it is, how you say, the underlying subject that supports home ownership, business. It's all interrelated. Okay. So our service continuum is education, resources, and support. We wanted to make sure that we were covering all aspects of helping entrepreneurs move to success. Education, which is personal financial education, and entrepreneurial education. Resources are the access to capital and business-related services that a business owner would need to help make their businesses successful. Support is personal financial coaching, business coaching, and mentoring. And then there's networking and net weaving, because we want to make sure that when we're, moving people to capability, that they're able to build the relationships necessary to make their businesses successful. Our financial education is year-round under the Money Smart Georgia project, and it culminates during Money Smart Week, where we share the results that we've accomplished over the full year. And it's offered to all demographics and income levels and covers everything from budgeting. We've even had some funeral planning in there. But the Money Smart for Small Business is a critical part, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are actually running businesses off the cuff and haven't formalized, their efforts. Thank you.
Albert, please go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Paula and your team, for inviting the Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation to be a part. And I have with me Ms. Taisha Scantling. Taisha runs our St. Petersburg office, but she also runs our CATCH program. The Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation was started in August of 1987, so this year we're celebrating 30 years. The organization was one of about 7 organizations that was started throughout the state of Florida as a response to a study that was done by our state legislature. So in 1985, there was a study done that wanted to look into the disparities between African-American-owned businesses and other businesses in gaining access to commercial credit to start businesses or to fund businesses. And as a result, in 1985, there was legislation established that established our program. And that has continued. It's changed. It's evolved. Back in about 1999 or 2000, we became a CDFI through the U.S. Department of Treasury, and we've maintained that certification during that time. We originally were started to serve 2 primary cities, the city of Tampa and the city of St. Petersburg. Since then, we've expanded. We cover the entire counties of Hillsborough, Pinellas, Polk, Sarasota, and Manatee counties, and we're looking at some other counties currently as well. The organization was set up primarily to finance small African-American-owned businesses, and that continues to be the primary thrust of what we do today. We financed hundreds of small businesses over those years to the tunes of multi-millions of dollars, and we continue to do that on a day-in, day-out basis. We also provide technical assistance. That's a key part of what we do, and part of that technical assistance is helping them understand how to use money in their business, but also with their packaging and helping them gain access to banking organizations or other lenders that might be able to assist them. We typically will fund loans for individuals who can't get loans through normal means. So if they don't qualify at a bank, then we can take a look at their transaction and find a way or to see if it's something that we can provide financing for. But if we find out that that client has the ability to obtain credit from a bank, then we try to get them involved in bank financing as soon as possible. The organization was funded through investments from large national banks and local banks, as well as the state of Florida back in 1987, and that's fundamentally continued to be the way that the organization is supported. Recently, when we made our foray back into St. Petersburg and established an office here again, that's when we decided to get a little bit deeper, and we started the CATCH program. And you'll hear a little bit more about that as the program goes along. But that's in a nutshell kind of what we do. My background, I've spent the better part of the last 29 years in banking. As such, I've been trained in all facets of banking as far as lending and commercial lending for banks. I've been involved in millions and millions of dollars of transactions. I had a boutique capital firm myself, and I also used to own a dry cleaning chain with a former client of mine that we sold some years ago. And so I'm engaged in different forms of entrepreneurship and development, but my primary function right now is running our CDFI, which I've run now for going on 5 years. So with that, I won't continue to belabor the point. We'll go ahead and allow us to get into the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert. At this point, I will ask 5 questions to our featured organizations, which will be addressed by their program staff, but Venus and Albert will chime in as needed. We will pause after the 3rd question has been answered to take questions from the audience. However, participants are welcome to submit their questions as they come to mind. We're monitoring the chat. We hope that you enjoy this format. When answering the questions, Urban Asset Builders will answer first, followed by Tampa Bay. So the first question is, can you please explain how and when do you teach Money Smart for small business? Venus, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so we have created Urbanpreneur University, and it was created to support the African-American entrepreneur, but all are welcome to join us for the education resources and support that we offer. Money Smart for Small Business is the foundation for the program, and we have our founding partners that deliver services in those areas that I mentioned. We have our leader partners are the Urban Financial Services Coalition, the Interest Group here in Greater Atlanta, Lift Fund, and Exodus Financial, as well as the Capacity Builder Network. So it's a new program, and as I mentioned, MSSB is the foundational curriculum. And since we are new, we have a program mentor that advises us on how to set the program up, the best practices, because they are an experienced provider themselves. And then the modules are facilitated by financial service professionals. And the reason why we've chosen that model is because we would like for those participants who are actually in the classrooms or in the workshops to actually get the right information. So Be Smart for Small Business, what I really like about it is that it allows, for instance, a banker or an insurance person or a tax person to be in the room, share their expertise and their experience, and give insight to the participants as they're asking questions around these different modules and subjects that we're covering. So collaboration really is key to a successful program. Some of us, we just want to stay in our lanes and do what we do, but it allows everyone to come to the table. So our program is offered mainly in the public libraries. For one thing, as mentioned before, I have initiated the CFPB Libraries Project for Georgia, where they want to make all public libraries the trusted hub for financial information and education. And it also helps to meet people where they are. You've got some who can't, get to the small business development centers for whatever reason, or don't have the money to participate in the programs, but they still have the entrepreneurial spirit that we want to foster. Right now, we're launching 2 programs, but we'll offer 3 to 4 series, 3 to 4 times a year with 6 to 8 modules per series. We have one exception coming up. It's offered weekly and during evening hours for 2 hours, either from 5:30 to 7:30 or 6:30 to 8:30. And each series ends with a resource fair, which is a recap of the 8 weeks that preceded, and then different activities for the entrepreneur to engage in, and then it prepares us for the next round. So as mentioned, the education, financial, and entrepreneurial is provided by our leader partners. Thank you. And we'll turn it over to Patricia.
Hi, good afternoon. As far as our CATCH program, we started this about a year ago, and the program that we run is actually hold on one second. It's actually a 15-week intensive entrepreneur training program. We host the class one night and evening from 5:30 to 8. During the 5:30 to 6 o'clock time frame, we actually allow the participants to network, and we provide food for them to enjoy while they're networking. We also use the idea of having industry professionals to teach the program. We felt that if participants had questions, it would be better to have attorneys or CPAs or industry experts to be able to answer that information as well. We do our program a little bit different. We have a very small, intimate class. Usually it's 10 participants, and we do 2 cohorts per year. We charge an application fee of $100. However, that application fee is refunded upon successful completion of the program. Once they graduate the program, we also provide them a stipend of $2,500. Those funds are used for verifiable business expense. We do require them to provide receipts once we've provided the funding. We do a few other things. We provide them a professional headshot. We do a video testimonial. We also include business cards that we provide to them.
As well as nameplates and some of the other things that we feel that they'll need that makes them feel like they're actually going into business, and that's been very successful for us, and the participants have gained a lot out of that. The other thing that's a key part of the program is they have to be willing to engage in social media. The way that they communicate with each other in between classes and the way that they communicate with us here at the BBIC is through social media as well. They also can stop by the office and receive one-on-one coaching, but the social media part is designed to drive a bond between the participants, because the goal of the program is not just for them to gain the knowledge that we're imparting to them, but also for them to want to do business with each other and get encouragement and support from each other, which has been absolutely critical and key, and a key part in keeping them engaged in the program. So the Money Smart series was very good for us. The modules were very good. It allowed us to get up to speed much quicker than if we had had to develop from scratch an entire program. So that is something that is very, very helpful and something that we're very, very thankful to the FDIC for providing.
Moving on, when we look at the selection process, we do have a selection process for the instructors as well as the participants. Because we pay the instructors, we want to make sure that they're committed to being able to provide this information. And the participants, we take them, because we do provide a stipend, we've started to see an elevated number of applicants. We do require them to be able to use a computer. As Albert said, we rely a lot on our social media platform. We have a private Facebook page where participants can actually post different motivational things, so we want to make sure that they are able to participate and know how to use Facebook. We require them to make a video using the YouTube platform. So again, we want to make sure that they're able to utilize all of those tools. Once we select the participant through our selection process, which they complete an application, and there's some essay questions. We have a panel that will review the applications and make the decision based on a grading scale, and then we notify the participants. We then call them in for an orientation. We do have them to sign a contract stating that they understand what the requirements of the program would be, and also this is their commitment to say if they don't complete the program, they forfeit the $100, and they also forfeit the stipend of the $2,500. We do have a very strict attendance policy. They can only miss 2 classes. If they miss more than 2 classes, they're dropped from the program unexcused, and they can only have 2 tardies, and that will equal 1 absence. We give them until 6:20. Once the time comes to 6:20, we remove the sign-in sheet, and if they come in after 6:20, they can still participate. However, they won't get the credit for being there that day. We look for companies that are already in business. However, startup businesses are encouraged. We've seen the types of people that have applied to the program to be all over the board, some higher level up to, we had a doctor, and we've also had some participants that applied and got accepted into the program that were just getting their business started. They formulated a business concept, and they were looking forward to developing that, and with these tools, they were able to do so. As I said, we do a lot with the social media, and now we're incorporating technology into the program. We will be using some webinars in our future classes that we're getting ready to start, and we'll also be utilizing YouTube a little bit more in our upcoming classes as well.
When we came up with the program, one of the things that we were really trying to drive home is we were trying to drive home commitment, and we're trying to drive home results, and we want individuals to, we want to remove excuses. You know, too often people will say that they don't have the tools necessary for them to get up and running, and that's been very true. And so what we've tried to seek to do in this program is the reason we have some of the strict attendance policy, the reason we have the policies and have them to pay the $100, the application fee, it shows commitment along the way. And in order to get the stipend, the reason we provide the stipend is because for many people to save up $2,500 in a lump sum to be able to launch their business can be very difficult. So we seek to remove the excuse from being able to launch, because with that $2,500, you have a sufficient amount of money to, if necessary, to possibly put down on rent, or to at least make sure that your business is properly registered, that it's properly structured, because you have those dollars. Those individuals that participate with us as instructors also agree to talk with these students even after the class and during the week. That's one of the reasons that we pay them, so that we can have their engagement and we can have their commitment as well. So we try to seek to remove excuses so that if a person is serious about wanting to grow their business, or perhaps they've already gotten the idea, they're already doing some source of revenue production, but they need to scale it up and they need some tools to help them do that, this program is designed to drive that home. That's the reason we also provide the food at the beginning of class, because most of them are either coming from their place of business or they're coming from work if they're not doing it full time. And this way, they know that they're going to get a good meal. And by the way, we have some great meals. They're going to get a good meal. They're going to be able to fellowship. And then once we start the class, there's no need to interrupt to have to run and get something to eat and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Albert and Tahisha. So we're moving on to question number 2. Can you please share some key metrics, outcomes, or expected results from your Money Smart for Small Business trainings and programs? And we're going to have Urban Assets go first. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So in partnership with the Urban Financial Services Coalition, the Greater Atlanta Interest Group, we held a partnership forum to pull the different partners together from financial services and businesses to discuss the best practices for, what we thought was needed in this area. And we also had some entrepreneurs in the room. It was well attended. We had about 40 people in there. The next step was a train-the-trainer session, which, very grateful and thankful for the FDIC and their support here in our area. Elaine Hunter did the train-the-trainer. She's been at most of our events, sharing her insight and experience and kind of guiding us along the way. And I thank Tom Stokes for his support in our efforts as well. So in the trainer session, we had about 22 people there. And so now we have, well, it's a little bit more now, 25 plus partners ready to engage in the entrepreneurial education, the financial education, and providing services like business coaching and mentoring and personal financial coaching for this project. So our goal is to position the participants for official business formation. I say official because some of the participants that we're purposed to serve are running businesses in an underground economy, right? And so a lot of them are not banked and not ready to apply for loans or certain services. So we want to get them to that next level where they, you know, can show what they're doing on paper and be able to have a track record. So we'll measure what we're doing, you know, by the financial management, any banking services that they've achieved, and then their, you know, preparation for funding. One important aspect of that is a lot of them want to go for funding, but they're not prepared. So we don't want there to be a drop-off. We want to support them, and even if they're not ready then, we'll get them ready so that when they go back, they'll have a much greater chance of, you know, achieving that goal. So I'm going to our partner, one of our leading partners, Mark Parham at Cap Builder Network, who can share his the information on some of the programming as he's our program mentor. Mark.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. One of the things that we also do from a metric standpoint, you know, is always course completion. Okay, we try to make sure that they complete the course. One of the other things for people that are just developing their idea, just working on their business plan, one of the outcomes is also a great action plan. I try to help people create at least a 90-day action plan that says, over the next 90 days, these are the tasks that I'm going to do to complete to get ready to go into business. It may be finish my business plan. It may be register my business. It may be create a website. Whatever the 3 or 4 major goals that they need to complete to move their idea forward is what we try to get them to complete. Some people are ready to complete a business plan, so we help them do that. And then one of the big things that happens is that when they're ready to start being coached, okay? So we really look forward to the fact that they think they have enough stuff together so that they can start being coached. So we do a lot of coaching and a lot of working with the people during the workshop series and after to help them stay engaged so they can start moving their business idea forward. Those are some of the metrics that I work with from a training standpoint.
Okay, and so as I also mentioned too, you know, collaboration is the key, and especially when we're starting out, you know, to have Clark Atlanta University as the host to, you know, host some of the trainings has been, you know, and the libraries to host some of the training has been, we can't even put a value on that, especially when we're trying to meet people where they are. And so, like as mentioned, we, you know, we did have the trainer, and Clark Atlanta was the host, and then just pulling, you know, the different partners together to make this a successful program.
Albert and Taisha, thank you.
Yes, and one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did, I don't believe in doing anything just for the sake of doing it. You know, it's got to be results-oriented. So when we put this program together, one of the things that was important for us was that we have a way to evaluate what we were doing so that we could make changes or tweaks as necessary in order to ensure that the program gets the results that we're looking for. As I said, one of the things we're trying to do is grow entrepreneurs. So, you know, it's a way to kind of organically grow businesses that we want to finance. We found that in some of the communities where we operate, there was not a lot of the types of businesses that we target. But we found that there was a lot of desire for people who wanted to be entrepreneurs. So that was one of the catalysts for starting the program. But part of that, one of the things that we did when we wrote the grant, and by the way, we were supported in this grant by Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg, which is a local foundation, and they thought the idea was a pretty unique idea because we also had to tie it into some of the social determinants of health. And one of the things that we found out, and if you look at the research, obviously finance is a huge part of stress. And particularly if you're trying to own a business or run a business and manage and run a family, finances can have a pronounced effect on your stress levels. And we all know that many of the things that stress can cause, hypertension, strokes and things of that nature, heart disease, can have an impact on your ability to operate your business as well as be able to earn a living. So we want to thank them for partnering with us. And also St. Petersburg College, that's one of our local educational institutions that provides the facility for us to do the training. So it's right here in the community, so people don't really have to go way outside of where they normally operate in order to be able to get to the classes. But we have independent evaluators that will evaluate and do one-on-one personal interviews with each of the participants. And I'm glad to say that in both cohorts that we've been able to do over the last year, we've got nothing but great results and we've gotten great feedback. And so that was important to me because it's not just a matter of running the classes or filling seats. We intentionally kept the enrollment relatively low to a small number because what we want to do is we want to follow through and find out just how successful these individuals are. So one of the things that they are required to do is they're required to also do follow-ups. So they come to class on a weekly basis. They have to provide weekly updates as to what did they do to move the ball forward to get a little bit closer to where their original goals are. And afterwards, once they graduate, and we have a great graduation session. The mayor comes. We have other dignitaries. It's treated almost just like a real true graduation. There's a banquet and so on and so forth, and the participants really love it. And what that's designed to do is, again, to let them know how important what they're doing, not only for themselves but for the community, how important it is and how important they are to us and our success, but how important it is that they go out and continue doing what they're doing in furthering their business. So the evaluators will come in, talk with the participants, and provide us that feedback. And then we know if we're moving in the right direction or not, because the goal is, what we're finding is that many times it's not that these individuals don't have capital, okay, to start their businesses. One of the things that they have to do is they need to be able to also find a way to access that capital. And so we provide that in that stipend. And so hopefully that takes a little bit of the pressure off of them. So with that, I'll let us move on to the next question.
Thank you so much. It's almost hard to stop you when you're providing such great details, and both organizations have very different and interesting approaches. Our next question is, how did you modify Money Smart for Small Business? How did you complement it with other materials? Did you customize it? Please let us hear about it.
Sure. So for us, we're currently running 2 sessions, one in Fulton County and one in Clayton County. And we had to consider, how you say, the audience. And so one is running an 11-week program, which we thought was a little much, but they wanted to do it, so we're here to serve. And as I mentioned, we're going to do 3 sessions per year. They're doing theirs 6:30 to 8:30. But as far as admission or accepting into the program, we have no stipulations today because when we did a focus group meeting, we found that there were different entrepreneurs at different stages, and there were quite a few from this demographic who had business ideas but didn't know how to move forward. So we want to, bring them in and help them, get to a place where they, have honed in on, where they want to go. There's a pre-survey at registration, and then there's an assessment, when they come to the orientation. So that we can gauge where they are, what they're expecting from us, and then, we can share the program and, what we want to serve them with and what we're expecting from them. There is no participation fee for these series in the libraries because we cannot charge. So we will be, focused on getting sponsorships for the program from, our banking partners and other partners. Right now, there is not a dropout policy either, and which we'll revisit that as we go forward. And there isn't because a lot of the people that we're purposed to serve might have, you know, transportation challenges. Somebody needs to mute their phone. They might have transportation challenges, so they might be coming on the bus or, you know, getting dropped off, that kind of thing. So we're going to gauge that as we go forward. For graduation, as mentioned, there will be a certificate, and we're getting them ready for loan applications for banking services, and then a plan of action for, you know, long-term coaching, both personal and financial. The other thing is we're bringing some of the resources in from our partners, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who has a wealth of information on personal finances, because we want them to understand that your personal finances are directly related to your, you know, business finances, and so is your credit. And there's a belief that, you know, they're separate. The other things that we've added in there is networking. Urban Mile, one of our partners, they have a business fair, so it gives our opportunity to go in and, you know, talk with other business owners and get information from there. And then the Circle of Firms, which provides business networking. Mark, I'll let you talk about customization.
Yeah. As far as customization goes, I do not actually modify the existing content. What I do is I may do a whole series of workshops for one day, but then I might do an extra one on digital marketing, financial projections, and forecasting. A lot of times I may add one on how to pitch your business and things like that, but I generally will leave the Money Smart content in place and just add additional workshops that go a little bit more in depth about some of the concerns that people have about how do I market my business online, or how do I get up and talk about my business, or how do I get ready for funding. So I really just add on to the content that's already provided.
And then I would like to add, too, is that, you know, gauging and just listening to the participants in the room, because sometimes, you know what I mean, their requests kind of steer you in a little bit different direction.
That's correct.
We actually, as far as the way that we do, we use the modules from Money Smart. We have consolidated a few of them to be able to add some other courses. One of the courses that we're in the process of adding is transitioning from employee to employer. We've added social media. We've also added the marketing plan and HR, customer service, and conflict resolution. We thought that those things would really add a lot of value as we see those services struggle. We see businesses struggle in those areas. One of the also good things that we do is we have a resource night where we'll bring in, the night before the course ends, we'll bring in a lot of our resource partners that's in the area, like Career Source, SBDC, SCORE, to name a few, Greenhouse and the Urban League, and then we will make sure that the participants know about those other resources as well. As far as the customization, as I said, we've modified the owning your business for a good fit and planning for a healthier business. We've consolidated those. We've consolidated tax planning and reporting and record keeping so we can add QuickBooks. We've also consolidated risk management and insurance so we would be able to add the marketing. One of the other things that we do is when the participants first come in, we have them to create a vision board, and that vision board is actually displayed at the graduation. They'll have the additional time to create the vision board, so at the graduation they can display and showcase what they have.
Excellent, thank you. We have several questions in the queue that our questions coordinator is going to read. Laura, please read the questions from the audience.
Thank you, Paula. Some great questions have come in. One of the questions, and I think it's tied to Albert's points, but if I'm wrong on that, whoever would like to answer this one, please do. The question is, how are you ascertaining the specific needs of the program participants beyond MSSB,
And then how do you track the results of serving those needs through your classes?
Thank you, Laura, and I just want to give the question the heads up. There's two more questions that we will address after this pause, and one of the questions is about impact, so the impact section can be saved for later. And Albert, feel free to answer the rest of the question. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll try and remember the portions of it. I believe it had to do with how do we assess the needs of the participants beyond
the MSSB, I think.
Yep, exactly. That's the question.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we require is, and I think I alluded to it earlier, we require that after the course, we do up to 9 months. Well, actually, it originally started out at 18 months. We consolidated it, and we consolidated it down to 9 months, where they're required on a month-to-month basis to meet with Taisha. And with one of the, and a lot of times we'll have one of the consultants that we work with in as well, and talk about their progress and the things that they've been doing, because the key is to keep the ball moving forward. But the other thing that they have to do is they have to do their one-on-ones with Taisha here at the office. So that way they're able to come in directly and talk about some of the issues that they're running into. Taisha reaches out to them, like I said, through social media, also through one-on-one contact, and find out what they're doing. Because we do offer the stipend, and because of the way that we give the stipend and the way that they have to access the stipend, it causes us to engage with them, because when they request an advance on the stipend, then we get a chance to ask what the dollars are being used for and to make sure that they're making the best decision with the use of those dollars.
Thank you. Thank you. There's another question here that asks, what is SunBiz? That was on one of the slides. Venus, I'm not sure if that was you.
Yeah, well, you have to forgive us. I guess that is our state's Department of Corporation. So that's where people have to go to register their business with the state of Florida. It's sunbiz.org. So we require that our business, that our participants register their business. They have to have a bank account, and they also have to have a tax ID number, because when we advance the stipend dollars to them, they must go into a business account because they have to be used for business purposes. So that way we're able to at least track and make sure that the dollars are going in for business purposes. But that is what SunBiz is.
Thank you so much, Mark. There's actually several other questions that came in. We won't have time to answer them, but we will answer them. As we've done in previous sessions where we had too many questions, we will add a question and answers document along to the recording of the presentation. So at this point, we're going to move on to the questions 4 and 5. So as I described earlier, question 4 has to do with impact, and I hope that Urban Assets can address the question first.
Sure. So we'll measure, we'll measure our impact, like I said, when we consider, you know, the demographic we're dealing with, those who are left out in the margins, is by how, you know, they're able to successfully move forward and how capable they are in opening up accounts and being prepared for loans and increasing their, you know, their credit, you know, their banking activity, loans received, and, you know, how they are actually, you know, managing the starts of their business, where they're going and applying for licenses and getting set up the correct way, and that's why we want to offer those supports. So that's what we're looking at. We'll also have, you know, to help achieve that, we're going to, you know, we have a referral track for the different services: coaching, business mentoring, as I said, networking, business services. There's a wealth of services that we use to complement, you know, what we have. So, you know, our future plans are to go ahead and expand this in the, the underserved communities, you know, and meeting them where they are by, you know, offering this in the libraries.
Thank you so much, Venus. Next.
As far as our sustainability, we actually do incorporate some of the same items that Venus just mentioned. We do host a formal graduation where the participants can bring their family members. Some participants have brought as many as 8 people to their graduation. We do provide a certificate of completion, and we also provide them a large check with their business name and says the amount that they were awarded. We've actually had some of our participants highlighted on 2 of the local media channels, ABC News and Channel 13, just talking about the program and giving them some extra exposure. We also have them highlighted in our local media so they can get that extra exposure as well. We have the monthly meetings for 6 months and then quarterly after that. We also have a lot of networking events that we incorporate through the Tampa Bay BVIC that we invite the CATS participants to attend.
And we also, one of the things that was important to us is to find out how it was impacting the community and especially the area that we started the program in. We partnered with an organization, talking in terms of collaboration, with an organization called 2020. And 2020 is a group that is measuring impact in this particular area over various things, particularly economics and entrepreneurship, through the year 2020. And so they provide a lot of data analytics for us. So in understanding where dollars are being loaned or where dollars are not being loaned in the community, and to let us know how many businesses have started as a result. So we'll be looking forward to getting that data back in the coming years as this program continues to evolve.
That's wonderful to hear, and we do not require Alliance members to report any results to us necessarily, but we love to hear those stories about impact, and particularly when studies are conducted. So our next question, it has to do with what worked and what didn't work. And I hope, I hate to put you on the spot, but often our Alliance members want to hear mostly what didn't work. So thank you for your generosity.
Okay, so for us, the main thing was not having an MOU and a clear understanding of defined rules with our instructors, because, you know, a lot of them, you know, they come from different fields, so, you know, they're trying to meet their goals, but our programs are strictly educational and there's no selling allowed, so that was one of the big things for us. And then not understanding your audience and relating to them, you know what I mean, because some of the instructors, they are, you know, well, most of the instructors are professionals and they come from, you know, financial services background. They're experts in their field. Well, you have people at different levels, so you have to be able to relate to those in the room. And then the last I would say is not having some type of funding, you know, or in-kind support for the free program, because you have to consider marketing, printing, you know what I mean, how I say the food, you know, some people try to come for food, but, you know, those kinds of things. So that's, you know, those are the 3 things that stick out for us.
Thank you, Venus.
And what didn't work for us is not enforcing the rules for the participants. As we had our first class, we found out some things. People were very excited. They wanted to bring other people into the program, and we had to really hone down and tighten the rules for the participants. And then we also had to set boundaries for our instructors. Since we do provide food, you know, if they came in late, they would want to eat, and we had to make sure that they understood that they were there to teach a class. We also, when we first started, we were developing an incubator, and we were allowing the participants to utilize that space. But what we found was some of the businesses weren't ready for office space at that particular time. So that was another thing that didn't work for us.
Thank you. And we have a minute left, and that doesn't give us enough time to go over additional questions, but as we promised, we will address the questions with the speakers, and we will publish a document that will be an attachment. I want to make sure that all of the participants have our contact information, and mine is on the screen at this time. And if you do not already know your FDIC Community Affairs staff at the local level, I am providing a website, fdic.gov/community affairs, where you will be able to find community affairs staff in your area. all of the information about Money Smart for Small Business is available at the Money Smart section of our website and the SBA's website. And to conclude this webinar, I just want to run a very quick poll to determine whether you enjoyed this format and whether you had any problems with the technology. So I am going to launch the poll right now, hoping that it works. It's not working, so we're probably going to save it for next time. And once again, I want to thank everybody who participated in today's webinar. You can expect the recording of the webinar that will be fully captioned in the Town Hall section of the Money Smart for Small Business website in about a couple of weeks. Thank you, everyone. Operator, you can end the call.
Thank you, and this does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.